Hi, I'm Amber. I'm part of the karate coaching team this year. This video is just part in a series with a quick introduction to what we do. If you have a gi, you can wear that for the activity. If you don't, any loose, comfortable sportswear will be perfect. I'm going to start with a warm-up, some stretching. As with any activity, it's really important to make sure that you've warmed up your muscles and that you've worked out any stiffness in your body. So I'm going to start with 5 exercises that we do regularly in class. If you've done lots of activity before, then I'm sure you won't have any issues. But if you're new to training, then just take care not to overdo it. Get used to focusing on the technique and getting this correct so you don't develop any injuries. So I'm going to start with some sit-ups. So you're just coming down onto the ground. You're going to bend your knees, lying back. You can put your hands behind your head, and I want you to think about tensing your stomach. So I found when I started karate, it was really difficult for me to actually engage my core. So best way to do this is to suck your stomach in to your spine and press your spine to the ground. You can stick your hands here, and then all you're doing, keeping that core tight, you're coming up and down. So we usually will do about 10, 20 of these, depending on how mean our lead sensei is feeling. And then there's lots of different variations that we can do if these things just don't work for you. So one, you can put your legs together and you can pulse, reaching through. You can do things like coming through to work your obliques. And then as well, if that doesn't work for you, we can just look at doing things like bicycle movements. So there's lots of variations that you can do, but in general, we're always going to work our core and we're always going to look at tightening this area because, again, it's going to just benefit karate overall. So next, I'm going to show you some press-ups. Again, there's lots of different ways you can do it. I'm sure a lot of people have been taught to do press-ups, but we do them in a slightly specific way where when we come down to the ground, we're actually trying to keep our arms as close in as possible to our body, almost military press-up style. So you're bringing your elbows into your body and coming back up. Again, there's lots of different ways we can do them. So we can come onto our knuckles, we can be on our hands. If that doesn't work for you, I found that very difficult to start with. You can come a little bit wider, coming down. So as we get better and better at these, we can look at bringing some more complex movements into them, like clap press-ups, or even full Plyo press-ups. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about some squats now. So everyone's probably done a squat in their life at some point, but what I want to focus on is just full technique, making sure that no one's going to injure their knees or injuring their back or anything. So before I mentioned keeping your core tight, it's very beneficial to do that as you squat. This will also depend on your physiology, but I like to turn my toes about 45 degrees as I have knees that kind of point in naturally. So what I'm going to do is just squat down. I'm tracking my knees over my feet, and then I'm coming back up, trying to keep my back and core straight. So again, we would usually do maybe 10, 20 of these, depending on how mean the sensei's feeling. But we can look at doing different variations. So as you're coming down into your squat, as you come up, you can come into a roundhouse kick on both sides, or we can do front kicks, coming down. Or we even do this in stretching where we might come all the way down, which really helps your mobility into almost like a full yogi squat. So now I'm going to demonstrate everyone's favourite exercise. We're going to do full burpees. So the way that you come down, you're sticking your hands on the ground, you're forcing legs out in one movement. You're then coming down, press up, up, legs come back, and then again in one motion, you're jumping straight up, down, back out, press up, and back. So we tend not to do a lot of burpees because I know everybody absolutely hates them. If you struggle to do a full burpee, i.e. you can't really do a press up, you can do a half burpee, which is just the same without the press up. If you're feeling a bit fancy, you can come into things like, instead of jumping upwards, you can come into a star jump, or you can actually, without jumping, if you've got issues with your knees, with your hips, with your back, you can just do a squat instead.
So I'm going to talk about planks now. So these work a lot of different areas of your body. You're looking at strength through your shoulders, through your arms. You're looking at core strength. So to do these properly, you're coming down onto the ground. You want to set your arms underneath your shoulders, spread your fingers, make sure your weight is evenly distributed, and then coming onto your toes. What you're actually looking at is pulling your stomach in towards your spine again, almost rounding out through the shoulders will help you get a really good position. So there's lots of different variations we can do of this, where we can sort of come down onto our forearms. We can do things like lifting one leg up and down, or we can do something a little bit more energetic, things like jumping jacks or mountain climbers, things like that. Stretching is really, really important for your mobility, and it's just going to really benefit any karate activities you do. It's something we always do at the start of the sessions, but it's really, really beneficial and can be really useful for your day-to-day life, and it's just going to improve your karate overall if you introduce this as something into your lifestyle. We always do lots of different stretches depending on what activity we're going to work on in the class, and here's just a few to get you started. So with stretching, I'm going to start with arms. So I'm sure everybody's done this stretch before. All you're going to do is take your arm out straight. Using your other arm, you're going to pull it towards your chest. So this is really going to help not just stretch your arms, but it's also going to stretch through your chest. So if we've been doing things like planks or burpees, anything like that, that's just going to help loosen off these muscles here. I'm also going to do a behind the back stretch. So what you're doing is bending at the elbow, placing your hand behind your back on your neck, and then just pushing down with your other hand. And again, that's just going to help open out your chest, stretch down your back, and stretch your shoulders. So again, I'm sure everybody's seen this sort of stretch, but I'm going to demonstrate the forward fold. There's a couple of ways you can do it depending on what you're wanting to stretch, but your basic movement is you're going to reach towards the ground. If you can't reach the ground straight away, you're going to go for your ankles. If you're really, really immobile at this moment, just go in for your shins will do. As long as you can feel it down the back of your hamstrings, then you're getting a good stretch. So you can be here with your legs straightened. If you're starting from almost a squat, you can start by keeping your legs bent, placing your hands on the floor, and then gradually over time, you can straighten out. If you're a very, very flexible person, you can actually increase the stretch by crossing your feet one over the other and then reaching down towards the ground. So stretching out your legs is really, really important in karate because obviously you're doing a lot of kicks, you're doing a lot of leg movements, and your stances can take a lot out of you, especially when you first start. So what we can do is come into a really low lunge. So just make sure that your knee isn't coming over your toes. You want to keep this straight up from your ankle. Take your back leg out and you can dip, getting a good stretch through here. There's lots of different variations you can do. So if you're looking at opening out your chest, you can bring up your arms. If you're wanting to get a little bit deeper into the stretch, you can focus on trying to get your forearms down. And then there's lots of movements we can do. So we can look with a little bit of balance, a little bit of strength. You can look at straightening your front leg. You can turn your back leg and you can stretch backwards, and this will just incorporate a full body stretch. You're not only stretching your legs, but you've got your back, your sides in there. Then we can come down, bending through again, making sure you don't come over your front toes, turning and lowering the knee. If it's available to you, it might not be, and this is just something that we'll work on as time progresses. You can bring up your back leg and hold on to it with the same arm. And to just deepen that stretch, you can pull your leg up towards your back. If that doesn't work for you, you can just stay here and you can focus on dropping so that this thigh you can imagine this is going to touch the ground. And there's lots of different variations of stretch you can get from this one. It's really beneficial to all of your body. It's a bit more difficult, a little bit more complex, but it'll just help you overall. So again, stretching your legs, really, really important. We've looked at front to back movements. So now we're just going to look at some side to sides. What you can do is take your legs wide, just double shoulder width, and you can look at then bending one knee, straightening the other so that you can move side to side. You want to balance yourself. So some people may find that they're able to keep their spine straight. If you're unable to do that, you can bend just a little bit forward to counterbalance what you're doing. As your mobility increases, you can look at coming all the way down to the ground. But if this isn't available to you, you can still get a really good stretch by coming up onto your toes and bringing these ones up. And then you can look at trying to reach your far toes, or you can point toes. You can even look at pushing this leg out with your elbow. Lots and lots of stuff that you can do to just make sure that your body is feeling as loose as it possibly can for the activity. So this one may be a little bit more difficult to people who haven't done a lot of stretching in their time, but again, a little bit more of a full body stretch while also stretching your legs. So I'm just going to come down onto the ground. I'm going to take my legs out as wide as I can. So if you're struggling to get width, you can actually come up and push forward, and that will just help widen your legs a little bit. So from here, this can be a little bit uncomfortable, I know. There's lots of things you can do to try and ease that. So you can actually just bring your legs together a tiny bit if you've gone too far. If you want to challenge yourself, you can come into what we call pancakes. So we can look at trying to come forwards, touching the ground, but we can also do some side body stretching while we're in this position. So my favourite is to cross one arm under and the other arm over. So I'm trying to reach with my left, my right thigh, and I'm trying to reach with my right arm, my left toes. And that means I can just get a really, really nice body stretch through the side. That might be a little vicious for some people, so you can just look at turning towards your toes, trying to get your knee, not your knee to your head, but your head to your knee. Lots of different variations you can do. But if you're new to stretching, if this is something that you're finding really, really difficult, just working on keeping a nice straight spine while pushing your legs as far as they'll go, where it's giving you a little stretch, but it's still slightly comfortable, is more than enough. So this video is just an introduction to the sort of fitness activities that we do. It's really, really important for activities like sparring, but in general, it's just going to benefit your karate overall. All sessions are going to start with a warm-up, but this year we're really hoping to introduce some outdoor fitness sessions, which can be mixed in with some sparring techniques, so we keep up the intensity of training that we're going to lose to some social distancing, and hopefully over time, as restrictions reduce, we can introduce this into our training. We've got another video coming up next on basic techniques, so please watch to see what we're all about.